It's a sad fact that most guitar purchases will end up in the garage or in the attic or in the cupboard within weeks of leaving the shop. And even players who stick with it and manage to get a repertoire of basic chord structures will end up putting it down in the end because they're basically getting bored with the guitar. And as the motivation for a lot of these guitarists would be, the lofty ambition of becoming a rock star or a jazz impresario or being on the TV, once the guitar gets purchased and they suddenly realise that this linear instrument is not such an easy thing to play, the appeal of the guitar soon starts to wane, and unfortunately that's when it gets put away. This sad scenario can be avoided. I have already been down that road and come out the other side by following a set of procedures which I'm about to show you now. These 10 tips that I'm about to show you actually range from absolute beginner to people who have been playing for quite a while. Tip number 1, take your time when you first purchase. If you buy a guitar on impulse and it has a crappy feel or sounds awful, chances are you'll put it down and never pick it up again. Let me tell you a little story. I learned the basics of guitar playing while I was overseas on a backpacking holiday. And the guy who taught me was kind enough to let me practice on his guitar. I became quite a competent enough player and had a bit of a repertoire of simple songs to consider a guitar purchase when I got home. The guitar I bought was an acoustic guitar that was made by a very well-known guitar manufacturer, which I'll not mention, but they make excellent electric guitars, so I spent quite a bit of money on it. It was shit in every way. It handled like a dog, and the sound was dull and tinny. I put it down to the fact that it was brand new, and thinking it was a bit like a car and that you had to run it in. So I played this piece of shit for nearly 2 years. I tried everything. I changed the strings, adjusted the nylon bridge, replaced the bridge, replaced the nut, changed the strings on countless occasions, hoping that it would improve things. But it didn't. Like I said, this guitar produces fantastic electric guitars, but I wouldn't give a halfpenny for their acoustics. It might be an unfair judgment. It might have just been an unlucky choice, but I've been bitten once and I won't get bitten again. I put the guitar down and I put it in the closet and I never picked it up again. In fact, I actually stopped playing for at least 10 years. Mind you, I did have other distractions such as children to bring up. To continue the story, about 10 years later, I was at a barbecue of a friend of my missus's, and somebody brought out a folk guitar. They were trying to learn to play, and I happened to mention that I could play and could show them a few chords. The guitar was an unnamed brand and was quite old and in need of quite a bit of repair, but it was wonderful to play and it had wonderful tone, and my passion for playing the guitar was reignited. That same week I went out looking for a guitar. I took my time and I went out with an open mind. I did not go out with the idea in my head that expensive must be best, and I bought a classical guitar which I still play to this day. It took me about 3 weeks to find. It had a lovely feel and tone, and it cost me less than $80 to buy. So my advice to you, before you purchase, try out a few. Sit down and go through a lot of guitars. If you're buying an electric, just check it out on a semi-decent amp. The guitar store manager will be quite happy to let you do that. And yeah, take your time and look around. So this is a Chinese copy of a Strat. It's made by Squire. There you can get these they're actually various prices, but you can actually get a low end range of around about $100 US, and basically they're pretty much the copy of the Strat has got the same look and feel, but they actually can be completely different. So totally recommend that you don't actually go and impulse buy the first one you get. Go to the shops, go and try different ones. One of the things to look out for is just a nice, on the back of the neck, it's nice and smooth so that you can move up and down with your arms. Don't forget, as you're going to be playing it, you're going to be moving up and down, so it's good to have a body that's, it's not sticky or anything like that. One of the other things is obviously, play it, Listen to the sound. One of the things that you don't want is it's so easy to get a guitar that doesn't sound very good. Plug it into an amplifier. Just get the guys, at the shops. They will be more than happy to plug it in. Plug it into a sort of semi-decent amplifier, so you don't get a tinny, crappy amplifier that you're listening to, and then just go through. Well, I mean, just if you've never played before, just put your fingers on the strings in different positions. Make sure that you can press them down nice and easy. This one had a nice feel, had a nice playability about it. So I mean, like you can sort of hear for yourself. Just turn that off so you can see. So basically, if I just turn it on to a clean guitar. One of the things is that with a lot of guitars, and I've been to a lot of places and I've seen guitars where you look down the edge of the string and the string at this part of the end is, it's almost an inch away from the fretboard. That's no good because, as you're playing this and as you sort of progress in your playing, pressing down long distances up here is actually not, it's not good. So you want to make sure that the actual string's fairly close, fairly even down the neck, and it should be fairly close. It should be very easy to press the strings. Well, one of the other problems that you can have with strings that are actually very close like this, you could be pressing on this string, and this string could be so close that it could actually be touching a fret, and you get what's known as fret buzz. So you want to make sure that when you actually play the string, it's nice and clean. So there's no buzzing. So that's the other thing as well. So and also as well, I mean, just fret the strings in different areas. Just make sure that they sound nice. I mean, what would be good is actually get whoever the shop might tune it up for you, or just carry around a tuner with you, so you can just make sure you're in tune, and then play and just make sure it sounds good. One of the other things as well is called intonation, which is when you play an open string, an open E string like that, you can play that string, that E again on the 12th fret of the same string. Now, if the guitar's not in intonation, it's not intonated, that sound up here might not sound exactly the same as that. Now, when you're just starting out, if you're very new, it won't be too much of a problem as long as it's not too out of key. Like for instance, I can play, so the A string, which is the second string, if you play the bottom string, top string on the 5th fret, that should be the same. And then when you play it up here, so you just need to make sure that they sound pretty close to the right tones. Look, if you're only going to be paying $100 for the guitar, it might not be absolutely spot on, and it doesn't really. I don't think personally it matters if you're new, because obviously that won't be the important thing to you. You just want one that feels nice to play. And if you needed to actually change the intonation anyway, this is why these saddles move up and down, so in order to help with the intonation. But I wouldn't think you'd even want to look in that particular area for quite a long time anyway. Until you play for quite a long time. So get one that feels comfortable. Get one that that sounds nice. If you don't get one that's comfortable and sounds nice, you'll be putting it down. You'll never be picking it up again. I guarantee that, because it happened to me. So yeah, always make sure you get one that sounds nice. So shop around. Don't go and get the first one that you want to go and buy. And one of the things is, in reality, if you're learning to play and your mate's got a guitar and that, it might not be a good idea to play your mate's guitar, because their mate's guitar might sound shit, and that would put you off playing. So shop around. Don't have to go and get the top of the range. I mean, like I said earlier on, top of the range one didn't work for me, so it might not work for you. So you don't have to spend a fortune, and if it's not for you anyway, you don't even got to go and sell it again. So, or keep it like I have. But yeah, shop around and you might be surprised. With your new guitar, consider purchasing lighter strings. One of the downsides you're going to have when you first start to practice are calluses. They can be quite painful, especially if you're playing an acoustic with heavier strings. With the electric, it's not such a bad thing because the strings are lighter, but you might want to get light gauge ones to begin with. You're going to get calluses and you're going to have to work through those. Unfortunately, that's just an unfortunate side effect. The pain will become less as you play more. The calluses will start to become harder and then you won't even notice them. But if you do put the guitar down and you pick it up at a later stage, you'll get that pain all over again. So I would consider just keep practicing once you start. This is probably the most important tip. Keep your guitar out where you can see it every day. Out of sight is out of mind. Remember when I put my crappy guitar away, I never even thought about it. And I never picked up a guitar after that for nearly 10 years. It provides the kiss of death to any rock and roll aspirations you might have. You might have a music room or spare room that you use for your musical creations. I personally don't recommend leaving your guitar there because you might not go there for ages. It's like having it in the closet, So I at least have one of my guitars always resident in the corner of my living room. It's pretty much to the annoyment of my missus, especially when my guitar, I've been playing on musical creation and I've left my leads all strewn around that evening. So I definitely recommend that you clean up after yourself if you want to maintain the sanity of your family. And when I see my guitar, I naturally go to pick it up. So this tip is definitely worthwhile in my opinion. Tip number 4, get a set of decent headphones. I know and you know that your guitar playing will be the next best thing since sliced toast, but there's a high likelihood that your family will not share that opinion. And that opinion might extend for quite a while. So to keep the peace, it's definitely recommended that you purchase a half-decent set of headphones. Remember, a decent guitar played on crappy headphones will be similar to playing a crappy guitar. Again, don't impulse buy. Try out a few first. Not only should they have good sound quality, but they also need to feel comfortable when you put them on, since the chances are that you might be using them for hours at a time. I purchased a decent set of wireless headphones from eBay for about $100 US. But I already knew the brand and I've used this model of headphone before. So actually getting them, without trying them didn't really matter for me. Wireless headphones have the advantage of no wire technology, allowing you to stand up and move around when you're bashing out those Hendrix riffs. Remember the sanity of your family. You'll probably get away more if you're playing in the living room if they can't hear you. So a set of headphones, especially one that fits good and has got good noise quality, is certainly recommended. Tip number 5, practice religiously every day, even if it's just for 15 minutes or so. I'm not going to lie to you, there's going to be a point in your playing where you feel like you've hit a wall. It's a sort of psychological thing, and it's everybody I've talked to have gone through it. You'll feel like you won't be able to play any better, and that wall can last quite a while. In my case, it was for over 6 months. However, I kept playing every day, and then one day it was like I passed a speed bump and my playing just exploded forward, and it was an exhilarating feeling. You do continue to hit speed bumps along the way, but the periods that you remain in those speed bumps become smaller, weeks instead of months, until you no longer seem to notice them anymore. After a period in time, playing guitar then becomes an addiction, and the concept of practice no longer applies. You find yourself picking up the guitar all the time to learn new ways of playing, and the guitar takes on the role as your new mistress. Play songs that you like, at least when you're first starting out anyway. Playing songs that you actually like to play will help you stick with picking up the guitar. There's nothing worse than playing something you don't actually enjoy playing. You won't put in the same kind of passion, and that might turn you off from playing. Stick to just standard pop songs to begin with, and possibly experiment with more difficult songs at a later stage, but definitely keep playing something you like. One of the cornerstones to all music is rhythm, and it's really important that you get rhythm laid down as early as you possibly can in your playing. Without good rhythm, a song can sound bland, regardless of how intricate the melody or how sweet the harmony is. The rhythm is the pulse of the song. A song with good rhythm is more likely to get people's feet tapping. A good way to get the hang of rhythm is to play along to backing tracks or CDs or records. Learn to play with records at lower speeds as well. Lower tempoed songs can be just as challenging to play as with playing along to high tempo songs. Tip number 8. Learn to play music in different genres. That might seem to contradict what I said in tip number 6, but this is assuming that you've been playing for a while and are ready to move to the next level of playing. Having a grasp of multiple genres will open up your playing in ways that you would have never thought possible before. Mixing genres makes things really interesting and will add a whole new dynamic to your playing. I recommend listening to fusion players such as Scott Henderson, Alan Holdsworth, Pat Metheny and Greg Howe to get an idea where your playing can go. They also would give you a good insight into rhythm, which was the previous tip I was talking about. Tip number 9, learn to play the piano. This might seem like running ahead of oneself, especially when trying to grasp the intricacies of the guitar. But the piano is a linear instrument with all the keys laid out in front of you. It's also a visual instrument, and it is easy to work out the note positions. The positions of flats and sharps is a doddle. They're all the black keys. And the piano helps the guitarist visualize chords in a way that is not possible on the fretboard. It is a good tool to use when working on music theory, chord relationships, and note choices. I'm not taking anything away from piano players. It takes years or maybe never to become an accomplished pianist. But I know of a lot of guitarists that can play both instruments. An example of such an artist is Sean Lane, when you see him on his gigs working both the piano and guitar in the same song. This is a relatively inexpensive instrument, about $45, $50 US. It's a simple polyphonic piano. It's nice and small, so you just get it out just on the front desk or sitting on the settee or whatever. And basically it's got 44 keys. And then you're able to do, pretty much general, work out chord structures and that using this one. Probably not small enough to take with you, maybe if you're on the train to work, but I mean, it's a perfectly useful little, it's got a nice little sound. You've got piano, I'll just turn it on. So it's, it's got, it's got enough to, so it's reasonable sound. And it allows you to play 8 notes polyphonic at the same time. So you can make structure. I can't really do it with So basically, it's good enough just to learn on. So, but if you want something a bit smaller, you can just learn on the fly when you're on the train or whatever. You can use. I use the iPhone, and I'll be demonstrating that in a second. Well, this is what I use when I'm on the train. I just plug in my earphones and I'm ready to go. So basically, I can sort of see just one octave. As you can see, it's marked C3, C4. So. But then I can just go ahead and play something. I use it to work out tunes and chords and stuff. So if I play so I'm going to play C major. So it's really useful for So when I want to work out D major or D minor, I can use this to work out, and I could do it. In the comfort of on the way up on the train. I'm not disturbing anybody, and it's quite easy. Just put my headphones on and that's it. Okay. And finally, tip number 10, make use of the new technologies. Most people these days own or have access to personal computers. And there's great software available for musicians to create backing tracks to play along to. Apple computers come shipped with GarageBand as standard straight out of the box, and it's really quite good. In fact, the intro to this video was done with GarageBand. Obviously the guitars were my own work, but everything else was due to the computer. If you don't have the luxury of owning a Mac, there are other awesome programs out there for the PC. They're not free. One of the projects I'm toying with at the moment is Ableton Lite. I paid about $80 US for it. Its big brother weighs in at about $500 US, but I find that Lite does everything I want it to. Getting your head around it takes quite a while though, but I think the results are worth it. Just an FYI, Ableton Lite ships for free if you buy the Novice Launchpad. I wish I knew that before I bought the software. Another tip is, get your stuff up on the internet. YouTube and SoundCloud are free and highly recommended. Why should you do this? Two reasons mainly. First, you have a record of your progress. You can gauge where you're currently at by looking at old recordings. It can highlight areas where you need to work on, and it's also like a portfolio for your work. Be aware that creating material, especially YouTube, does take quite a lot of effort. Secondly, it gives you the opportunity to have a platform. Most players are motivated to play in the hope of getting an audience. And the other thing about YouTube in particular is the opportunity to push out material that may help other aspiring musicians. Even if you don't have too much of a following, it feels good to think that some other people might be benefiting by your advice. Although getting an audience would be nice, for me it's not the overriding goal. I myself have quite a lot of material on YouTube and SoundCloud, and the majority of it is in the form of tutorials to help other people play using the techniques that I've learned on my musical journey. If it was just recognition alone that motivated me, I would have given up ages ago. If you've managed to get to the end of this video, thanks very much for putting up with my ranting. That's pretty much it. There are obviously a lot more things I could have talked about, but I'm going to leave you with one final tip. That is tip number 11. There's no such thing as owning too many guitars.